C-Bus.
So this is a Petsafe containment system. As you see, we're going to take it's unplugged, because if you plug it in, you'll find that the power button comes on, but we have the beep and the loop indicator is not lit. So generally, first thing we do is check the connections here, check the surge protector. Want to make sure the surge protector is not bad. If the surge protector is bad, the wires going in and out, the signal won't transfer through. So we want to make sure that we get these out, check it with the system right there to make sure it's not the actual system. First thing I'm going to do is unplug this guy. Then I'm going to just push in on these red buttons behind here, unhook the system. I'm going to do the same thing on the surge protector. Hopefully you can see this. I'm just going to take the one that says loop. That one goes to transmitters. This one goes to the yard. I'm going to take this loop wire out. Wire does not reach. Won't reach the system, so we're just going to take the system off the wall. Usually they just lift off like this on its back. Next thing we want to do is just put these wires back in the system directly instead of running it through the surge protector. Just like that. So now the boundary wire's in. Now to get these in, you just push and slide the wire in, and these are spring loaded. They make contact as soon as you push them in. Okay, now that we've got these spring loaded connections in there, we'll make sure that they're in and making good contact. Sometimes I'll give them a tug. Yep, they seem to be good. This one seems not quite straight, but put them in there, give them a tug. Yep, they're pretty solid. Saying we're going to hook power back up to the unit. So just pull this spike out of the wall and hook the power back up to the unit. Okay, we still have a break in the line. We can check the power signal, and it doesn't make any difference. So we know that there's a problem with our line somewhere in the perimeter or in the property. So next thing we're going to do is try to figure out where that break is at. We're going to unhook these wires, like so. I'm going to set this dog fence aside. We're going to get the toolbox. Next thing we're going to find is this guy, and this is made by Petsafe, and this is a locator to locate the broken wires. So I'll show you how this thing works. First of all, the black one, it just goes to a ground. So you want to find a good ground. I'll show you how I do that. These two are your boundary terminal wires. It does not matter. This is the boundary terminal wire that we got out of the system. So we're going to loosen these terminals up. Now this is a cheaper model. You can get fancier ones. You don't have to do all this and go outside, but for someone that doesn't use it all the time and occasionally tries to find a break or a problem, this is a good system to use. It's cheap. It does take a little learning curve to use, but you just want to put these in those little holes like so to make good contact. And then I'll tighten down these wing nuts. Make sure I make good contact, and then we're going to tighten down these wing nuts. Okay. Here's the power cable for it. The power cable goes right in the side of this machine. So it goes like this. Okay, here's your off and on button. I'll turn that off. Up here. Now, here's the ground wire that I said. What I'm going to do is, it's close enough I can prop it up. What I'm going to do is carefully put this in the ground. A lot of times I bend it like this so it makes good contact. And providing that your outlet is properly grounded, this will work. You put this in the ground, and then you can just plug this in above it, like that. And now you've got that ready to go. Now we'll turn on our system. Power, green light's good. Now the other component of this system is very simple. It's simply an AM/FM radio. So we'll turn this to AM, and we turn it as far down the dial as we can get it, which is usually about 88, something like that, 88, and then we'll turn the power on. Now what we should hear is a buzzing noise. There you can hear a buzzing noise. Now if you listen closely, you can hear a high and a low signal. And this transmitter will transmit a high pitch and a low pitch through each wire, so you can tell which one goes which way in the yard. If your ground is not working properly, you'll still get a tone. However, instead of one wire being high and one wire being low, if your ground wire is not connected properly, you only get one tone. You can still find the line that way. However, it's not as easy to determine where the signal's coming from. Right now outside, you may be able to hear, we have another crew member. They're doing some hedge pruning and mulching while I'm here. They're doing some pruning and mulching while we're here, so we're going to have to kind of wait a little bit so we can hear our signal pretty well. You can see that he's taking care of some stuff, making it real nice. So if you don't know these systems very well, this is our crisscross or twisted wire. This is the boundary wire that goes out around the yard. So if you look at a layout of the typical dog fence, we're here in the garage. You'll have a twisted wire, which is this white one right here, that comes out. The reason this wire is twisted is because it cancels the signal to the collar. This is a typical collar for a Petsafe brand. And like I said, this does most of the work. The unit itself only sends out a radio signal. So this is an antenna, basically. This twisted wire here is the white one. After you get out to the part where you want the dog to be contained, well, then you'll have a solid single wire. Most of the time, the solid single wire is usually something like this would be a piece of the solid signal wire. Usually has a coating on it. Most of the time it's 12 or 14 gauge. In this case it's 12 gauge. I've seen them both. Sometimes it's stranded wire and sometimes it's solid core wire. Generally it's stranded wire. In this case, the white wires here, they are solid core wires. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our marking paint and we're going to turn our system on. And we're going to go out and find the wire. Best thing to do to find the wire is just to come out to a point that you might know where it's at, where you can visually see it sometimes in the bed lines. Right here I can see it. So we know the wire's there. Another place that you can frequently find it is usually at a crossing at a sidewalk or the driveway. So we're going to look down here and see if we can find it at the sidewalk or the driveway too. So many times it's installed and it comes right through the crack. I can see the wire way down in the crack right there. So I know, hopefully you can see it, but I know that it comes across the driveway at this point. At this point what we're going to do is make sure we get a signal. So we're going to turn on our radio and we can hear the buzzing. That's good news. You can hear two different tones. You can notice right where the wire's at, the signal would disappear. That's the exact location of the wire. You can hear the high tone, the low tone, and right there is the wire. So all we have to do is find that spot. We'll take our marking paint, we'll just make a dot. So we know it's right there. Now what we're looking for is when we lose this signal. When we cannot locate that signal any longer through our radio, that's when we have a problem. And when you can tell the difference in tone, right there is silent, and then the difference changes. That's the spot where the wire is. Now I'm losing any signal at all. When the signal gets very weak, there's usually a problem. Now if we take a look at our line, we can see it comes around the tree, curves down the sidewalk, and then down along the perimeter. However, right around here we lose the signal. So we're trying to figure out what's going on in this spot. I can find it right there. As I move a foot or two forward, it gets very weak, but I think it's right there. As I get to this point, I can't hear it at all. So as it comes around there, that's the last successful point that I can find. That's the area that I think I've located the last signal. We're just going to dig around this area. Normally the dog fences are only a couple inches below the surface, usually not more than 2 to say 4 inches under the surface. So we're just going to dig a little bit across this area and see what we find. Yes, I may cut it when I'm digging, but it's probably going to need to be fixed anyhow. As I dig across it, then I'll dig back a little bit. Now as we get down there, we're going to try to scrape it with our spade some, and then we'll see if it's just under the sod. See if we can find it in this area under the sod. Oh, there it is, right in that spot. So now we've found the dog fence right in this spot. It is a coated wire. You can see I hit it with my spade right in this area. So next thing I like to do is I just sort of tug on it, since this is the last area that I could see the actual break. What I generally try to do at this point is I just give it a little tug, and to see if the wire comes loose. And notice how easily it's coming loose? That tells me it's definitely broken. There we go. Definitely broken in this spot. So if you look from there, you can see that we've only got about 1.5 feet past where I lost this. So definitely there was a break there. Now, as you see, there was a big sinkhole or something that got filled in at that spot. I don't know, there's something settled here, maybe related to the drainage. I don't know, but my suspicion is the dog fence wire went through the edge of this and it settled and broke it, or pulled it apart as it settled. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dig up here a little ways. I'm just going to guesstimate where it comes through, about right in this area where I would guesstimate it's hit, probably somewhere in this zone. I'm going to dig some more and see if I can find the other end of that wire. Sometimes this stuff is just trial and error. So we're going to look at where we think the dog fence comes through at. I'm thinking it's coming through the edge of this hole. So I'm going to dig here. Okay, so we've located at least one problem with this dog fence. There's the original hole that I found the break in. As we see, it's headed right towards this sinkhole or the problem. And we come through here, and I dug across. You can see I've dug across this whole area. And as I dug across it, of course, I found the dog fence. And it's directly in the center of the hole. So next thing we're going to do is I dug a little spot with my spade here so I can expose the rest of it. That way to expose the rest of it, we're going to pull on this some. Pull on it kind of hard. And it doesn't appear to be loose or broken in that spot. Here, it goes through that hole. I think what maybe happened is the ground settled and just pulled it apart at one of those locations. So next thing we gotta do is I'll show you how to repair this. First, we'll use this connector. So now, basically, we're just going to go back and test the system to make sure it works. So we're headed back in. We fixed the suspect areas of the dog fence, and we're going to hook it back up to the original system and see if our little fixes work there. So let's do it. All right, so here's the containment system. Comes off the wall right this spot. This one originally came out to the surge protector. We used our locator device to figure out where the break is. Now we're going to hook it back up to this and see what kind of luck we have. First thing we do is we take these two wires. It does not matter if it's left or right. It doesn't matter which one goes in which hole. Real basic system here. These two guys here are spring loaded. So you just simply have to open these up, put the wires in, put them fully in there, and the spring loaded parts will hold the wires in. After I get them in there, I always like to try to tug on it a little bit, make sure they're in there. It seems like they're making good contact and they're in there. So now we look out for these little lights. This one shows us power. This one here shows us the loop, power and loop. This is our boundary with control. I explain that later. Now all we have to do is put power in and cross our fingers. So now as we see, we have a power, we have a loop, there's no beeping. That means we are A-OK to go. Now in order to adjust this fence, I can show you the adjustments on the fence after I get it hung back up on the wall. But as for now, we're good to go. So I'm good with the wire. I'm going to unplug this, and I'm going to go back outside, and we're going to bury those areas of wire that we'd fixed. Oh, it's raining like crazy. Luckily, we've got the dog fence fixed, so hopefully you'll subscribe to my videos. I try to put videos about all types of landscaping, whether or not it's pruning techniques, mowing, trimming, anything related to landscape, irrigation, dog fence, anything outside. Maybe I'll show a video on how to do it. If there's any sort of requests, you guys could post it on the YouTube page, and I'll see if I can do a video on that next time I'm out to fix something. Thanks for watching.